Hello from the lab. Good morning. This is Jay, and back we are looking at ePolicy Orchestrator version 5.10, and wanted to point something out to you that you may not have noticed. Based on the latest that we have seen with the product guide, it begins to mention it, but you probably haven't looked at the guide in a while either. It's called the deprovisioning feature. And it's described here on page 29 of the 5.10 installation guide. There's also the product guide. And basically we've seen, especially in a virtual environment, where we have multiple system names. And because they're virtual machines, they're causing us issues, and they're tilting our numbers, because if you have a very large VDI environment, you shut them down, you spin them up, you restore them, and then you start having multiple systems, and then you have to go into cleanup mode. Well, what they have done here that you might not have mentioned previously to other folks, or even looked at it yourself, is how in the world they're going to fix this. Well, they did. Now, over here, if we look in 5.10, now the version that I'm running is 5.10 build 2428. When I come down here to my 506, I have a 551 agent. You'll notice here that I can put a check mark here, and down here to actions to over to agent, I have up here deprovision agent. Now over here on my client, I've made the status monitor nice and wide so you can see what's happening. Basic communications that we know we have over to the EPO server. So I'm going to choose WRK1, head on over here, put a check mark in it, go to actions, go to agent, and then up here to deprovision agent. Now, you would normally do this with VDI systems, but there's a couple of reasons I'm showing you this. If I click on here, all of the documentation is going to say that you would note that the machine is listed as VDI set to yes. Okay? That's what it says here. And you would find all that information if you took the time to go through the guide. Back over to EPO we go. But I want to show you what happens if you were to use this over here on this machine. Now, you're testing, and this is very important. You want to make sure you test this out and really understand what it does. I wanted to get a video in front of you so you would know that the feature is there, especially if you have VDI systems. So I'm going to go over here to my WRK1 test victim, put a check mark in here, go to agent, go to deprovision agent, and select yes. Now, meanwhile, over here WRK1, waiting for the next ASCII, but I'm going to push the clock here by clicking collect and send properties. And watch what happens. This looks very familiar to any of you who have dealt with sequence errors. Sequence errors are typically associated with GUIDs that are on multiple machines, and you'll see that there's a synchronization or a sequence, and it's out of whack. And you're going to see in your environment that you could have many different machines that have sequence errors, and we'll do another video to show you how you deal with that. Meanwhile, back over here to this function, you'll notice here when we select WRK1, you want to be familiar that, especially with a VDI, that you have a deprovision agent. What I'm seeing here as the end result is it's whacking the GUID on the machine, and when your next ASCII takes place, you're going to have this machine back and operable in a way that it should be. Now, this function was put in here for VDI systems. Let's look at it the way I normally have looked at it when we deal with sequence errors. So back to the sequence error. I keep a column up here because I like to keep an eye on any system that has a sequence error, especially if it's recent. That's the most important piece. You may want to clear the sequence error count. Well, how you would do that is come down here to the directory management. And you'll notice that there's a couple in here, a couple of items that you want to be aware of. Move the GUID to a duplicate list and delete the system. Well, that means it's going to get removed here. You want to be really careful about doing that, especially with machines with DLPe and drive encryption. And then I could just simply clear the count. So if I had a this machine was hypothetically had 40,000 sequence errors, and they've happened recently, chances are there's probably a problem. I could very simply clear the sequence error count, monitor the machine for the next 24 hours, and if I see sequence errors beginning to appear, then what I would do is choose this one machine and make sure it's online. Over to Directory Management, and then select Move GUID to the duplicate list and say yes. Now watch what happens. The machine disappears, and we have to wait for that machine to report back in. Now, if we push the ASCII clock, you'll see that we're going to have a similar behavior as we did on the deprovision function. Here's the deprovision, and here is when we actually remove it. Now, we're going to presume, at least in this case here in the lab, that it's going to report back. I'm going to refresh, and what we should see is WRK1 coming back. There it is. Okay? So you want to be familiar with the ability to actually deprovision a VDI, and you'll also notice that when you go to particular machines, you may not necessarily even see the function. Now, I'm going to select 506.220. There's a deprovision. If I deselect the button, you'll notice I don't have the deprovision. I choose the 506 agent or the 551 agent. Multiple machines, I don't have the deprovision. If I select just the 551 agent, I get a deprovision. So become a little bit more familiar with the interactivity of what you're selecting and what you expect to see. So use the deprovisioning on VDI systems and use the approach that I showed you here for sequence errors, starting with the clear agent GUID, clear the agent count. If they come back within 24 hours, then you could take that one-off machine, but you want to write it down and you want to keep track of it, because the last thing you want to do is to remove a machine from EPO and find out that it's not going to talk to you anymore. That could certainly happen if you have a bad McAfee agent, if the machine was stolen, or any other scenario that was involved. That's it from here. Hope you enjoyed that, learned something along the way. I'm Jay Appell. Have a terrific day.